Welcome to the Small Scape. Today I'm very excited to bring you a video I wanted to do for some time, and that is, how can you aquascape on a budget? Welcome back to the channel. I am excited about this because I do not only love aquascaping, but I love to do it on a budget, especially when you have a number of tanks, which I'm sure a lot of you do, and you have a lot of ideas popping in your head for different aquascapes, how you can get it done, because spending hundreds of dollars on a single aquascape is probably not in the cards for a lot of people, including me. Sometimes I will splurge, other times I just need to get it done sometimes as quickly and inexpensively as possible. So let's get started. The first category, buy less. Well, I'm going to use the example of the latest aquascape that I did. It was a 5-gallon, and I showed you how much it cost, exactly what I used. I just did that. I'll link that video down down there somewhere. And the first example I'd like to give you is the amount of plants that I used. I think it was a pretty decent amount of plants that I used in that aquascape. The number one tip I would say is, well, buy less and actually spread out the plants. The plants that I used came from PetSmart and Petco, and in each container, these are tissue cultures, so you're going to be getting them smaller, but they come with multiple plants. So instead of, say, using, I believe I used 6 Bacopa because it was 2 containers, and each container had at least 3 plants. So instead of mass planting them where they look really pretty darn good at the start, use less and spread them out more because they will be growing, especially the crypts that I used. They were relatively small, but they will grow, they will fill in, and quite possibly I will be maybe even pulling some out at some point. So save yourself some money, get a smaller amount of plants, and just spread them out, and then enjoy watching them grow in. Also, what you can do is pick a single type of plant, maybe just the crypts. That would be a great choice. Even the crypt parva. I've seen a lot of really cool aquascapes where there is one single type of plant used and it's just mass planted. A lot of these tissue culture plants, you can, like the dwarf hair grass, if you have a higher light, and you can use that. I like to use the crypt parva or the micro sword in place of that. And when you pull out this little cup of plants, you can spread them out a whole lot more and get a whole lot more coverage, and then just watch it grow in there, and you've only bought one type of plant. Now keep in mind, even in those high-end aquascapes, they're either spending a lot of money or a lot of time. And that means, yes, they'll be spending a lot of money at the outset to get this full, lush look, but also in a lot of these high-end aquascapes, you're looking at the finished product. You're looking at the beginning when they plant it, and then they maybe time-lapse it for a few weeks later, a month later, and you're getting the end product. Keep in mind there's time that has passed that you may not be taking into account when you set up your first scape. And even with the high-end aquascapes, they're not even filling it in completely sometimes, especially with the carpeting plants. The first time that you see the scape complete, they've just divided these little carpeting plants all around, and it fills in within a number of weeks. So even they don't sometimes start off with a complete look at the outset. The other thing you can do is pick one. Pick a focal point. What do you really want with this aquascape? Do you want the focus to be on the rock? Is there a particular kind? Do you really want to do like an elephant stone or a dragon stone or any of these cool rock where you had your eye on it? Pick that and spend your money on that. If you're thinking that you really want a cool piece of manzanita, that may cost a few bucks there. So keep that in mind and just make that your focal point and pick something a little bit less expensive or fewer rocks, and have the rock play a little bit less of a function in your complete aquascape. Say you have an empty tank and you're going to aquascape this tank. I highly recommend knowing the ratio that you would like your tank to be. Generally, I like to do about a third. A third of the actual tank, visually speaking, is going to be filled with something. Plants, rocks, wood, and everything else is open space. Your eyes do need some space to rest, and the fish, of course, do need some space to swim. So know your ratio before you start. If you have a particular scape in mind, know how much of that space you want taken up. Do you want a really lush landscape? So you think, all right, I'm going to be focusing on the plants, or do you want the rock to be really eye-catching? Some of these mountainscapes, they're very rock focused, so they're going to be, spending a lot of that money on the rocks. So just know the ratio of what you are going to designate in that tank for either rocks, wood, or plants. And my last tip for buying less is, before you go to the store and you're going to be looking at all these pretty things, the rocks and the driftwood and all the beautiful plants, know what your budget is, know what you want to spend, and that will keep you from overbuying. I have overbought so many times because you think that that is the coolest rock you've ever seen, that is the coolest piece of driftwood. Oh, they've got two, I can get that for later. Just know your budget first and, try and behave. Now, my second group of tips is buying for less. How can you do that? I have a number of tips here. The first of which will come from a video that I did, I believe it was on this channel, last year or maybe even the year before. And that was, you buy different. That's right, you don't buy the typical aquascaping things like the dragon stone or the cereus stone, and it could be $4 a pound. You think about it differently. And also, maybe you don't get that bag of sand at the pet store. You go to the home improvement store and you get pool filter sand. That's very popular. Even high-end aquascapers use that, and it's really great. You may have to rinse it out first, like we do with the brand that we get. We really have to rinse it out. So you may do some work with that, but you're going to get it a ton cheaper. I mean, just a few dollars for a big old bag. The same thing goes for gravel. You can get pea gravel at the home improvement store and save a bundle of money. The other thing that we always recommend is we're swap pushers. That's right, belong to a fish club. You won't believe the amount of money that you can save going to a swap, especially if you go to the swap very close to before it's closing and people don't want to bring this stuff home. Maybe they'll wheel and deal a little bit, and you can shop around for the best price as opposed to going to one store, and that's pretty much what you get. You're going to get a lot of variety and a lot better price frequently. Very good prices. The other thing you can do is, well, grow your own. Get plants that grow very quickly, and you will be able to, well, maybe you only have one tank right now. It's somewhat likely that you may have more than one tank in the near future. It's probably very, very, very possible. And you too will have MTS, multiple tank syndrome. So get some plants that are going to grow. Vallisneria is a great one. It will grow very quickly via runners, and corkscrew val is a beautiful plant that you can, I have a tank downstairs that it is growing very quickly, and I'm going to have to start spreading the love around to other tanks, and that is super cool. Now rock. Rock is a big, especially if you have larger tanks. I usually do 20 gallons and less, but if you're using a lot of rock, that can add up quickly, because when you go to the pet store, you are probably going to be paying per pound, and that can be $4 per pound. A lot of fish stores, that is the price that they tend to sell it at, and that can add up really, really quickly, especially the dragonstone, the cereus stone. So check other places that quite possibly will sell it less. We did a video on Primetime Aquatics, and that was to get your rock elsewhere. Lowe's. Lowe's sells it much cheaper. You can get it in very large bags, so yes, you'll have to deal with larger bags and stock of that, but that's not a bad problem to have. You can also get it, I've seen small bags at Petco. I've even gotten them before. I believe they ran about $30, and there was about 9 pounds in there. So that's $3. That's a little bit less than your $4 per pound, but keep that in mind. Look for other places to get your rock. One of the best places that we get the cheapest rock, and that's river rock, is at the local landscaping place. You will get it for under $1 a pound, and if you want to save a whole lot of money on rock, but you want a lot of rock in your aquascape, focus on the river rock. That can get you a really cool aquascape. It can get you a biotope. A lot of biotopes have just river rocks. Obviously a river aquascape uses river rocks. A lot of really cool aquascapes, don't forget about those. Another tip is buy what's on special. Maybe you're at a local fish store, a smaller fish store, and they only have a few pieces of driftwood. I found a lot of really cool driftwood when I really wasn't looking for it, just because it was so inexpensive. Really cool pieces of Mapani or Malaysian driftwood that were under $10 a piece. I didn't need it at the moment, but I did get them just to put in my stash and have used them and been very happy. The other thing is looking for specials. If you are by a PetSmart, they do sometimes run sales. I think somebody just commented on an earlier video that they're running a 15% off plants now. Woohoo! They also sometimes do a buy two get one free, or I believe they've done that in the past. So just keep your eyes open and see who's running specials. Also, our sponsor Flip Aquatics, they will do specials too on their website on certain products, and sometimes that's plants, and they are currently selling Tropica plants, which I highly recommend. I have used those in aquascaping competitions. I do want to get my hands on some here in my own studio to create with them, because you do get a lot for your money with the Tropica plants, just mentioning. Now for my last final, I think I got like 5 miscellaneous tips that I hope will help you. The first 3 are to deal with plants, because we all love plants. I love plants in my aquascapes. So what are some tips specifically with plants? First, buy fast growing plants. That's right. Get the ones that grow really fast, because you can get them smaller, you can get them from friends at a swap, whatever, and they'll fill in your tank very quickly. So Vallisneria is really great. Like I said, even the corkscrew val is a beautiful plant. Highly recommend that one. Something else like dwarf umbelia grows like a weed. Any of the floating plants will grow very, very quickly. You'll have more than what you really need in no time whatsoever. So in this category would not be Anubias. Don't buy it small, because you're going to be waiting a long time. It'll take weeks to grow just a single new leaf. But in the next category is buy large plants. Yes, I would highly recommend looking at a larger Anubias, especially in the tube plants at the PetSmart, the Petco, all around. Look at a larger, more mature Anubias, and that will take up visually a lot of space, and it will be close to its, it'll be at least closer to its full size, and you'll get kind of a pretty good bang for your buck for $10 to $12 or $13 or so. Another one for a larger plant is like a sword plant. Especially if you have a larger tank, you can definitely look at that, and something that's just a little bit more large to begin with. Then you can, my next plant tip is, well, do the opposite. Buy them small. Tissue culture plants, you're gonna get in any one of those containers at the big box stores. You can get 3, 4, 5 plants in that container. Even more if you're looking at like the micro swords, you can divide that all around your tank. It may look kind of puny and sparse to begin with, but just wait. You'll have lots of fun watching it grow in, and you're going to save a lot of money, because you're going to get a lot of plants for just say $10, and you just get to wait and enjoy the growth in your aquascape. Another great thing that I would highly recommend is buy the best light that you can, especially if you are looking to grow your plants faster, grow them more, or you're investing in some plants for one tank knowing that you want to get some free ones for some other tanks. Just do your research, look at the lights that say that they're great for plants, and make sure that you're getting the optimal amount of light without being too much light for say slow growers like Anubias or something like that. But just make sure you are investing. You can get some nice lights for not a whole lot of money, but just make sure that you're doing your research on the lights you're actually putting on those tanks. The other thing you can do, and you know what, I don't even know what number I'm at, but I'm on a roll. You can scape in parts. I like to do this sometimes, especially if I don't have a master vision, but I know that, wow, this is a really great rock, or this is a really great piece of driftwood. I want to use this. You scape it in parts. You know you want that rock. You put it there. You say, I know I'm going to want this plant. Say, I've done this with Vallisneria. I've put that around the tank, and you just look at it for a while. Leave it. Leave it. Who cares? Leave it for a week, a number of weeks, until you decide, oh, I want to get that, because the worst thing that you can do is overbuy. Try not to overbuy. Don't be like me. I want that and that and that and that, and you just get a whole bunch of different selection and choices just so you don't run out. Just scape it in parts. You'll be able to see it grow in a little bit and be like, oh, you know what? I don't actually need as many plants as I thought, and you're gonna save a bundle. And I have one last tip. I just have to do it because, well, don't buy fish on a whim. It's like going to the store and you get a puppy, a little tiny puppy, and it's so cute and you love them and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to get you the best of everything. I want to get you the collar and the leash with the little rhinestones, and I'm going to get you the food and the bed and the this and the that, all at the pet store, the overpriced pet store. Don't do it. Don't do it for your fish, because especially if you get a betta, you lock eyes, you're like, oh my gosh, I love you. I'm going to get everything right now. And you're not going to really be thinking of the budget. You're just going to get this little guy or gal everything that he's ever wanted for his perfect little new home. So those are my tips. Hopefully they help you out somehow. Let me know. Let me know, what are your tips? What are your favorite things to keep yourself on budget? Or do you just not keep yourself on budget? Do you wish you did and you just don't? Let me know. Thanks so much for watching, and happy scaping.